3, 2.
Okay.
Back from a long extended hiatus.
Most definitely was a hiatus.
This is the part where we get the intro saluting.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a strong rhyme to step to, right?
Or at least a good lead to follow.
Yeah, well, I'm not particularly camera ready, but sometimes you just gotta sink or swim, jump in. We haven't done it in such a long time.
Never camera shy, always camera ready.
We've been talking about doing this for a very long time, as far as getting back into the mix with DX21 Presents, Codename Codebreakers. We've had that trailer, the coming soon trailer, going on for like how many years? Like 2 years.
I would say closer to 3.5, but who's counting? Bakers does it.
Well, we're here, we're launching it, and we're living in very interesting times, I would say.
These are some serious times.
He went Egyptian on everybody. Egyptian.
Everything going around me is violence and crime.
So we are past the first 100 days of Trump 2.0, following the blueprint of Project 2025 and other lessons not mentioned. And what I was thinking as I was analyzing the state that the world is in is that there are parallel prophecies occurring simultaneously. And depending on what vibration you're in tune to, you can come under the influence simultaneously of several different prophecies. To pull two concrete ones that we can discuss, there is a book. Matter of fact, I should go and grab it.
While he goes into the library, the Akashic record.
Truthberry.
The Truthberry.
That's what the truth is, Barry.
He's going into the Kobo nest to retrieve some scrolls. But with that being said, on the prophecy notification, I'm coming with a separate angle, whereas it's like people with too much times on their hands and unlimited resources are the ones that try to propel and make prophecies come true. Because if you have enough time and you have enough resources, you can connect the dots. Perfect example. We all seen the movie Aliens versus Predator, the Weyland-Yutani thing. It would be prophetic since it was a movie based on the future. But now we have a guy like Elon Musk, who is a quote-unquote one-to-one rip of Peter Weyland from the Predator franchise. I mean, the Alien franchise. So it's like, is this something that was destined to happen? Or
didn't they cross over?
I mean, like they're both the same. They're owned by the same properties at this point. With the whole universal conglomerate, we're gonna swallow everything up. But it's like, was this something destined to happen, or is this something that somebody said, I could make this happen? And that goes back into some of my occult sciences, which I took no oaths, so therefore I can shed this information because I learned this information on my own. A wise man once told me, if you want to predict the future, the easiest way to predict the future is to create it. Right or wrong, X?
Yep.
So it's like, what is prophecy once you know that key? Is it prophecy or is it plan? Comments below. But any luck finding that scroll?
Not the second one, but I think that we'll be able to reference it, because we could do. I have one, and the other one And also, we'll make sure we'll put the link in below.
And don't forget to join the Kobo Book Club Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Links coming soon.
Yep. And dx21presents.com, we have that merch over there. We got some beautiful designs from Nadi. Most of the stuff that you see that's on, we can't use woke anymore. That term has been co-opted by the mainstream, and it is.
We'll talk about that in a few.
And it's totally deviated from its original intent and meaning, the way it's used in contemporary vernacular. But one of the prophecies that we're living in nowadays, and we're experiencing it right now through this particular live stream, is
the Hopi prophecy. Oh, the Celestine.
The Celestine prophecy. Now, if you know the contours of the Celestine prophecy, one of the things that was shared was that people would be able to profit off their own experiences, and that everybody would basically merchandise their experience. And that's basically what's happening with social media, is it not?
Tell me about it. I have a serious grind to gripe. Like, how is it that you can bring somebody to a network, bring somebody to a platform? And we're not talking about this whole bot thing where it's like they boost your profile with bots. I'm talking about you grassroots build a network and they put your people behind a paywall. I brought these people. I'm saying I don't mind you putting the bots and the people that you recommend to my page behind a paywall. Okay, like you want to access these guys, cough up a few cents. But to put the people that I brought to your platform that are on your platform, come on now. Meta, we got to do better. Meta, we got to do better.
Oh, you calling out the people's, you're trying to get us shadow banned. We're already shadow banned as it is. So what is beyond being shadow banned?
Oh, completely banned, where they let you know to your face, like, yeah, you crossed the line. And matter of fact, did I tell you? They put me on the bench for 30 days. Congratulations. I will be sitting down until June 19th.
So what did you do to get yourself put into the box?
I built momentum. I was doing the ground research for DX21 Presents on how to build engagement and social followings. I built my viewership from 20,000 views to 220,000 views within 28 days. But guess when they choose to pump the brakes? They clip my wings at 250K. So what happens after I build momentum to 250K? I got to sit down for 29 days. What happens to the momentum?
You lose the momentum.
So that is how they keep you. That's how they keep from paying you. For all of you guys that wanted to know, they build you up right till you reach the threshold, and as soon as you get there, best be ready to jump through some hurdles. That's when you'll find out that you had copyrighted content. That's when you'll find out things that you posted a month before are now offended somebody that they'll never tell you who it was. Somebody made a complaint, but like I said,
did you not challenge that? Because there was I had some blowback on Mr. Musk's platform, Twitter, formerly known as X, or X, formerly known as Twitter, or whatever it is moving forward.
Which name do you prefer? The bird or
Twitter?
the X?
The Twitter was popping.
I prefer the X. To me, the X is cooler.
No, but Twitter, you have so many brand. Like, for instance, just this week they had to backpedal on a rebranding, which is going to cost them millions. They threw out a big, one of the foundational brands of home entertainment and home television, home box office. They threw out that brand and said, we're going to call it Max. Now, at one time they had it as HBO Max. Then they rebranded and said, we're going to be Max because HBO has a certain connotation geared towards cutting edge adult. So we want to be more inclusive. But now what are they doing now?
Going back to HBO. You know why?
Why?
Because viewers like me started unsubscribing when they moved to the Max pack. Like, nah, bring that HBO back and you'll get some of that foundation.
Why would you throw years of sweat equity, brand recognition, down the toilet and go on to something like Max. The same thing that I saw with X. After you have all of this brand recognition, and there's even, I probably could go into one reason why I can't find the other book I'm looking for, because I have books all over the friggin' place. And
Scroll
that's
to the
something
next.
and that's something that I recommend for all of you out there, that you keep your own analog information assets. Reason being is that the analog, no, excuse me, the algorithm controls everything. So therefore, if you're going to get information on a certain topic, you're going to get what has been processed, filtered, and designated as the primary sources, which often have a commercial component to it. Whoever has the sponsorship dollars to get their particular source ranked higher is where you're going to go to. And what happens is we wind up getting fed the same information. If I go into a search engine and put in
Celestine prophecy.
the Celestine prophecy, the same link's going to come in. I'm not going to get a certain commentary or breakdown or perspective that goes outside what the algorithm has dictated to be the established norms. So you're not really going to get the outside the box thinking.
You still use Google, don't you?
I have leaned a little bit into the Chat GTP also.
Yeah, once you start using like AI as a search engine, it starts speaking back like how you was just wishing that it was referenced to you. And I noticed that, but like, I don't know, I still have that magnetic connection to just go for Duck and Google first, even though I know I would be much faster an AI component.
But the thing about it is, even if you're going onto the AI component, if you don't have the proper prompts and your prompts have been streamlined through the collective consciousness, you're just going to be put in the same terms as everybody else. So you're really going to get the same results. And ultimately, why are we going to an aggregator who's basically a middleman for the information when you can go directly to the source? For instance, even when I go to a Wikipedia page, I get there and see a general information. It gives me a general overview of the topic, but I don't go and say that this is the end all, begin all of my information. First of all, I use that as a point to go down to the bottom of the page to what? The sources. Where did they get the information from? And then I look at those sources, and those sources give me their sources, and that's how you really compound proper information. You got to go to the sources and not have it being filtered or funneled or put through some type of algorithm that basically is deciding for you the amount of information you get access to.
You know what's another good point that I wanted to bring up about the same thing? Soft scrubbing. I used to be such a big fan of audio books and, you know, like everything online over hard copy. But then I realized that there's this thing called soft scrubbing. And if you don't pay attention, they would slowly edit. Like if you have a hard copy of a book, look at the online version and you will find out that their words are missing, words are changed, things are, so it's like it's always good to get the hard copy because you never know when they do mass editing, like as I said, just soft scrubbing. Like,
well, they've been doing that on a lot of government websites since the new administration came in, but I wouldn't call this soft scrubbing. That's basically using the whole semantics thing to make it more less insidious than what it really is.
Well, no, the reason I call it soft scrubbing
is whitewashing. It's bleaching. They're my bleach.
I say soft scrubbing because it's like it's subtle changes that unless you like say you're a fan of like Huckleberry Finn and like you read that like 20 times. When you read the Huckleberry Finn that your kid reads, you're like, hey, I don't.
His name wasn't just Jim.
but I'm like, they not only that, it's like so many things. So it's like once.
But they're doing that for our own benefit. You see, they don't want us to be traumatized by reading these things. So they're taking our feelings into consideration, and they're going in and removing these terms from these books, not to alter history and not to paint a rosy picture of what it was really like, but they just don't want us to be traumatized by reading that in Little House on the Prairie by Laura Ingalls Wilder that they said the only good Indian is a dead Indian. They don't.
They changed that.
Yes,
see?
But that's for our benefit. They don't want us to be traumatized by that by reading that expression. They don't want us to they have our best interests at heart.
No, I wanted to go back to the old-fashioned way where if you want to hide something from a nigga, you put it in a book. I want to go back to that.
But that still kind of holds true, but not just for. And let's be clear. When you use that particular term, I don't think it refers specifically to people who, whatever they identify themselves as right now, Black people, ADOS, first foundational Black, whatever. We're not just talking about it. We're talking about a certain mindset.
Yeah. That's why I said nigga, not nigger. So props to that.
Well, just to get back onto the topic of parallel prophecies, this is one of the prophecies that I've saw has actually, I can see it, and not many people have talked about it. Have you ever heard too many people talking about how the Celestine prophecy is in effect?
Not recently. That was like when I was more familiar with it. It was probably back in like the early 2020s, like the early 2020s. Like I think, did it have an Oprah run? Did they have an Oprah run?
I'm not sure if they had an Oprah run. I never followed Oprah.
They made a little movie out of it or something like that, right?
I didn't watch.
Yeah, I think it had like a little Lifetime something. But going back to my topic of planned prophecies with the whole soft scrubbing, Fahrenheit 491, Fahrenheit 491,
451,
Fahrenheit 451. Is that something that's destined to happen, or could somebody with enough time and resources who've already read the past make it true?
Well, I mean, they already had some book burnings recently.
But I'm talking about like a digital version where they just soft scrub everything to the point where nothing is recognizable, everything is vanilla, and it's like I'm not talking even about our or children, but like our grandchildren. Like, what would the literature look like then?
Well, if we stay on the current trajectory, it's going to be exactly like that. Only there is no fire. It's just some techie sitting down pressing buttons. That's the fireman. The new fireman is the techie.
And see,
and mind you, a fireman, and for those of you who are not familiar with Fahrenheit 451, and we're going to make sure we go back and put all of the links to the books that we put in there, that we talk about in the, what is that called, the
comments below,
the comments below, or the summary,
the pinned comments.
In that book, there were firemen, and the objective of a fireman wasn't to put out fires, but to burn books. That's what they're called, firemen. They came in and burned books. They didn't stop fires, they started them.
I mean, they stay around to make sure nobody interfered, and they made sure it was clean. They did a good job.
But the whole point of the matter is they were the ones who were burning stuff. They weren't putting out fires. When we think about a fireman nowadays, we think somebody who comes and puts out a fire, rescues the people, unless, of course, unfortunately, and this is not a joke, you saw the ladder malfunction that happened in Sunset Park?
No, I did not. Was it?
It's a clip that's happening, and my condolences go out to the man and his family. The firemen came to the building to rescue a man from the third floor of the building, which was on fire. The man stepped out of the window, and a fireman was there seeking to assist him, and the ladder malfunctioned and dropped, and the man tumbled down.
Like, it didn't fall back, it just it
slid down.
Wow.
The fireman held on when it went down, but the person he was seeking to rescue tumbled.
And see, I'm not gonna put my views on your show, but I have some views with, what's the key word? Just sin, parasites, and humans.
Sins or sins?
Sin, demons, parasites, and humans.
I think you're going on to a different.
No, I wouldn't even interject it on your show.
You're going on a different realm.
I'll save that for
not
my
rim
studies.
Because there's some people that mistake realm for rim. Yeah, it was on another rim. Yeah, I understand what they mean as far as like maybe levels in the shell, but it's realm, not rim. And so far we've talked about the Celestine prophecy, Fahrenheit 451, and that's another prophecy that a parallel prophecy that we're experiencing right now, that we're living in the unfolding period of. And the final one, which I was looking for, and I know I have a copy in this house somewhere, was George Orwell's 1984.
That is another perfect example of my Musk theory.
And there was a concept in there that the whole fake news, that's straight out of George Orwell's 1984. Straight out of it. And he had something called the memory hole. And the memory hole wasn't to preserve memories. That's where they threw the stuff that they wanted to forget. So in order for you to accept what they're putting out now, you have to take the past and throw it into the memory hole. Classic example, back in 2005, the Shinnecock Nation was seeking to enforce the treaties that basically gave them the rights to the Hamptons. The Hamptons were theirs by treaties that were signed with the Shinnecock Nation back during the 1800s. And when the Shinnecock people came to present these treaties and seek to get them enforced, do you know what the headline was on the New York Post? Land grab. Land grab. Now, can you believe the audacity of Murdoch's organization to accuse a group of Native Americans of a land grab? But if you don't know the history and you just see that headline and you have no context for it, it appears like this is a group of money grubbing people that want to take these beautiful estates from these poor rich elite people.
Poor rich elite people. Okay.
Land grab. That was the actual headline, and that is a classic example of a memory hole. And that's the classic example of rewriting history, where you have indigenous people who are just seeking to have treaties enforced, and you're accusing them of a land grab, that you're trying to steal the land that was stolen from you. Once it's stolen from you, you can't steal it back.
Are they similes, or are they okay, so Mandela effect and what you're talking about, are they similes?
They're similar. They're not similes.
Similar.
Yeah. And that I could see that as being a mandala effect, but not really, because that's really just rewriting history. And we could also see that happening in what's happening in South Africa.
Oh, are we allowed to touch on that? Because I would like to touch on that.
Well, you can touch on that. I mean, that doesn't mean that this video won't get flagged, but we're supposed to be breaking down the codes and breaking it down.
Okay, let's speak intelligently. Blanco genocide? Is that really such a thing?
But if that's what's on people's minds right now, and that's what's being pushed as the agenda, a lie often repeated becomes what?
The truth.
But that is not taking into consideration what? Context and history. If you can divorce people, the memory hole, 1984, if you can put all of the past into the memory hole and scrub all of those those divisive examples of history that are out there. Like if I come out and have a book about the Jim Crow South, no, that's divisive in American society. We shouldn't be putting forth this divisive type of ideology. But is it divisive, or is it just the history which is telling it as it is? So a person, what's the expression? If a people do not know their history, they're doomed to repeat it. And we might even be sometimes blessed to repeat it, because sometimes there are aspects of history that are good to repeat, but there are certain aspects of history we don't want to repeat. And we have to be more vocal in advocating for the whole story to be told. Like, I admire certain groups of society who will not let you forget the suffering that their people have experienced over the years.
We're definitely not allowed to talk about that.
So with them, it's never forget. Whereas with the majority of the segments of society is don't remember.
I mean, the elders have a saying, do for do in obey, which I guess the American translation would be for every action would be a reaction. So this whole thing about Blanco genocide,
Isn't that the
doesn't that have to do with apartheid? Like, are we going to forget
memory
about
hole? Memory hole. We were supposed to forget it. No. But if you do not know your history, and if you're going to the search engines and you put in that history, more than likely you might get a convoluted response as to what actually happened there. Because in order for you to accept that whole premise of there being this particular Blanco genocide in the southernmost regions of the continent of Kebulon, or however you want to call that, Afurokan,
Kemet?
Kemet, then you have to not know what came before. It's easy for you to present an event within ceteris paribus, within a isolated vacuum of occurrence when it's not attached to a cause and effect. If all you talk about is the effect and what comes after the effect, the reactions to that effect, and never address the cause,
it's doomed to repeat itself.
Not only is it doomed to repeat itself, but you get a distorted and twisted view of what is actually happening. You might think that what is going on right there is unjust. For instance, you see somebody come up and punch somebody in the face. You're like, oh man, that's messed up. Well, why he just punched that person in the face? That person wasn't doing nothing to him. But what you don't know was that person he punched in the face 3 days ago had went through and rampaged his whole family with a baseball bat, kicked his grandmother and knocked the dentures out, stomped him, threw the baby across the room, all of that. And that person caught up with him and all they did was punch him. But he did all of that stuff. But to you, if all you have is that one little snippet, and that's what you're judging by, then that person is the victim. But you have to know the whole story. We can't just pick up on the part that puts you, the aggressor, as the victim. And that's what's happening a lot of these places. Like going back to that 2005 situation when all the Shinnecock Nation was seeking to do was to get their just to honor your treaty. Your treaty. They didn't want the treaty. Your treaty. This is the agreement you came when you perpetuated the genocide, when you stole the land. Okay, we'll let you have this. But then it's like you can have it until we discover something valuable on it. They gave them the worst parts of the land. They gave our ancestors, I have that blood as well, some of the worst parts of the land. And then when they found gold or oil or uranium or lithium or whatever precious minerals they want in those particular lands, then they wanted to kick them off the bad land now too. Because now they get bad land. Oh, we gave that to you because you thought it was worthless. Now it's worth something. We got to take it from you again.
But I mean, to me personally, I think like there is no such thing, because I consider the Aboriginal Native people just like the Yard man. Give them a pile of dirt, they will make gold. So it's like no matter where you put them, they would have prospered and they would have wanted to come and plunder anyway. So it's like it was doomed and destined to happen. Sad to say. Because that's what, and I guess that's why they say now never show your hand, or why people would like be rich and act poor, because the minute you start shining, regardless of they do it with girls all the time. How many times it's like everybody been looking down on this quote like the whole Kevin Gates, Brittany Renner situation. Oh, she's a thought. Oh, she's a bop. But now she's walking in the light. Just because that man made her shine, oh, now everybody wants her to be mine. When a couple weeks ago she was a bop. Like, that's how it is when you shine, man. Once you turn something of trash into treasure, they're always gonna want it. So I think it would have been doomed to happen to the natives anyway, because they would have prospered whichever part of this country you put them, they would have prospered.
Little side note detour. We started at 7:30 for a reason. And if y'all are familiar with the New York State Penal Code, then you know what 7:30 means. It means we're under psychiatric observation right now. We're going nuts. We may go crazy a little bit here. So
I thought that was 10:50.
No, it's 7:30.
Not 51:50.
might be another part, but when people, everybody knows that 7:30 is a code in the street that is derived from the criminal procedure law 7:30.
Salute to the 7:30 dips.
I actually took a picture of a mural that was up in the Bronx. I went up to the Bronx recently, and that mural is no longer there for the 7:30 dips. And so I'm glad that I got a picture of it.
Whoa! So how long before they remove Christopher Rios?
I have no idea what's going on because maybe if it fits in with what they're trying to do with what do they call it, Sobro.
So,
They're trying
Soho and El Sobo?
Yeah, Sobro. They trying to,
Sobo?
but as one of my brothers, Real Wise, pointed out, the South Bronx is turning out to be kind of gentrification proof, except maybe around the edges.
I mean, I went to the Bronx Zoo the other day, and yeah, I can believe it because it looks like as soon as you pass 180th Street, I don't think you're in the Bronx anymore. At least it doesn't look like it. I think
How you mean?
it looks more like Sobro.
But has the South Bronx remained the way? Because I mean, I went to my boys' neighborhood in the South Bronx. What was it, something West Farms or something like that?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Salute to everybody down there, West Farms.
And it still looked like the '80s in certain corners.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like where I'm at is like, yeah, that's the Bronx. That's the South Bronx, the South Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
You pass 180th Street to go by the Bronx Zoo, so bro, and it's so weird because it's like it's kind of like being in Washington D.C. and being in the hood and then looking at the White House. It's like that weird.
That was an interesting experience that I had when I used to go to D.C. to be in the hood, but yet you walk 10 blocks that way and you're in the epicenter of the power elite of the United States of America with the K.
And like 4 blocks down, you could get crack rock 4 for $5. Allegedly. Inflation, I don't know what the prices are like now.
No, but what is killing me is that in certain areas, it still look like with the crack rock, like it's the 80s. Like they didn't get the memo. Remember when Jadakiss said the crack game is dead, they want the weed now? Some of them didn't get the memo.
But like for instance,
certain neighborhoods didn't get the memo. When I was in Newark during the pandemic, I haven't seen crack vials in the streets since like the early '90s in New York. In Newark, it was there every day. In the section of Newark I was in.
I went to Newark the other day for like a dispensary interview or something like that, and it's like I couldn't believe it. I thought I was in like I wouldn't say Beverly Hills, but I'm like this is New Jersey, like.
Well, there's like uneven gentrification happening. There's uneven development. Like there's one area that might be on the rise, but meanwhile there's another one that's on the fall because of displacement of the particular elements. For instance, in order for one neighborhood to arise and emerge into a certain level of prosperity, the elements that were there that were keeping it from reaching that pinnacle have to be removed. And once you remove those elements, they have to go somewhere, right? So it's not that the particular crisis is eliminated, it's just transplanted into another area. So then you have these pockets. So like it's literally sweeping it under the rug, kind of. Not literally, but you know.
They're literally sweeping them under the rug because
the rug being another community that becomes marginalized. So redlining is taking on a new meaning in this particular era. So and there's a strategy, a particular blueprint that they follow. They send in the police and crack down on the quality of life crimes to get people out. And meanwhile, the real estate in that area has been depreciated significantly. So developers can come in and buy it pennies on the dollar, and then they build it up and turn these areas into premier real estate ventures.
But like, where is the how is New York allowed to not have rent limits? Like how's there not rent?
Because free market capitalism.
What about free the people?
And the thing about it is, a lot of those luxury buildings that we see going up all over the city do not have high occupancy rates at all. They're basically just being warehoused for their potential value.
So you believe in the theory of phantom buildings? Like there are just literally a bunch of work buildings that are just empty.
I don't believe in anything I know. You can go downtown and look, and if you get a look at those buildings, you can see that they clearly don't have any people in them.
But pe-
Or if you stand in front of those buildings, how many people you see going in and out of them?
but people still clean the offices though. I find that
Well, they
way.
have to maintain the particular. You don't want the piece of real estate to deteriorate. You have to keep it in a certain condition. If you don't maintain it, it's going to just crumble. So they have to maintain it to keep its value.
And this
It'll
is
deteriorate either way. Otherwise,
this is what I've been wondering. Are these buildings already owned, or are they like still paying banks or whatever for them? Because I don't see how you could have something empty for
that's what I'm saying.
15 months.
They're not necessarily unowned. There are a lot of foreign interests that are buying it all up, but they're not occupied. They're owned, but they're not occupied. They're being held as assets. They're not being utilized.
Pawns on the board, and yet people can't find a place to live. Imagine that.
Because people are parking their assets.
Try parking your car in any street, on any avenue.
Oh, it's getting even worse with the new sanitation reforms.
I think it's getting worse.
No, have you seen that they have this new in New York City, they have a new pilot program for sanitation where they're putting bins in the street because they want to reduce the plastic garbage bags. It's happening in my community. I'm not sure if when you were strolling the streets that you saw the bins in the street. And say on each block, those bins are taking about 4 to 8 parking spaces because they're putting these bins there. And then the sanitation trucks come in and they take the bin and they dump the bin. So therefore, the maintenance people in the building are putting the trash into the bins instead of leaving the trash on, which I can understand is that they're seeking to, in the long run, deprive the rats of the food source. Yeah. But in the short run, you're also depriving us of already minuscule parking options.
But it's the same rats that can literally run up the side of the bins, get what they want, and run it. So it's like you might as well have just left them.
Well, if you look at the bins, I think that they're built in a way where the vermin can't get into them. But I think that
I've seen them going in and I've seen them coming out.
The new bins that they just put out?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen that.
Especially when the garbage is full. They can climb up in there and they can
I haven't seen them in these new pilot bins. They're pretty big and they've been serviced pretty regularly.
I mean, not in this area, but like closer down in the city.
Well,
where the rats look like cats. Yeah.
I think maybe we in a future episode, maybe we'll take an exploration of the area and show you exactly what we're talking about in terms of these particular bins.
IRL content coming soon.
But I do know that a determined rat can chew through anything.
Now, I mean they can, but I don't think they're gonna waste it's much easier to just get another meal like right around the corner than I don't think they'll waste their time. They'll probably if they're inside and they're stuck on the garbage and they can't get back out, I could see them doing that to get out.
Oh, but I think where there's a will, there's a way. And if their primary food sources become scarce, they're gonna desperate times and require desperate measures. The first law of nature is self-preservation. So if we're trying to deprive them of a food source, and these are established communities where it's something like 5 rats for every person or 10 rats for every person in the city, if we seek to eliminate them by limiting and restricting their food source, they're going to push their drive to find something else to substitute that food source.
And it's not going to be a pigeon. It's going to be your little Chihuahua dog. It's going to be your lazy ass fat cat. It's going to be your neglected kids. Yeah, rats do eat humans. They will eat human flesh.
You know what was interesting that one of my elders told me? He was saying that he kept a ferret and he had no problems with those type of vermin because ferrets are naturally averse to striking out at rats. He was saying if we wanted to reduce the rat population, all we had to do was keep ferrets because
Or mongoose.
same family, same family. But the thing is, they will restrict us from having those types of animals in city limits.
I never understood that. How is it in a place like, because I've seen some of the most craziest, weirdest, supposed to be dead, like, I think Texas has everything, and like nobody cares. As a matter of fact, I think I seen somebody in New York City walking. It wasn't like a raccoon, but it was like what's that thing with the striped tail? It was on a. It had a little Disney movie with big eyes.
A badger?
No, not like a lemur. Wait.
Oh yeah, the lemurs. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I seen somebody in Harlem walking around with one of those. Like in Harlem, you'll find some exotics, but as far as the rest of the city, how how do they
yeah.
crack
That's
down on
funny.
them?
I was just looking at the story of the tiger. I was revisiting the tiger that was living in the projects up here in Harlem.
Didn't they have one in the Bronx as well?
I don't remember, but I remember the dude had a tiger and an alligator. And the tiger has since passed on, but yeah.
Was that the one when the guy died inside, or is that the one with the
No,
pee?
no. That was a gentleman who they called the authorities when the tiger bit him. So he
Oh,
got into something that he didn't think that it was intentional, but they came in and got the tiger from him. And a lot of people knew but didn't know that there was a tiger living in the projects.
I think the one in the Bronx, it was like the pee went down to the other apartment, and like
This happened there also.
yeah, so it's like that's when they. So yeah, it's probably the same one then.
Yeah.
Because that's how I noticed it. Like they said the pee seeped down, and that's what it was like. What was like what?
Mhm.
Because like I guess it smells way different from regular cat piss.
Yeah, well, we digress.
Yeah, we have
The theme is Codename Codebreakers. We were talking about parallel prophecies, and then I whipped out the T on my chest, and we went on a tangent. They
tangent
said,
man.
"Yeah, you know about that superhero that they said I was, the Tangent Man."
But going back to the topic and prophecies, here's one prophecy, or here's one thing I would like made into prophecy to come true, and look up this book as well, Soylent Green. Okay, let's bring
I
that in.
was just talking to someone about Soylent Green. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but if you want to know what the future of food processing,
And bitches,
I don't get that.
furniture, man. Don't leave don't take the furniture. When you leave the house, the bitch stays.
Okay, what is that a reference to? I'm lost.
Soylent Green.
I don't remember.
They
I get
refer
it.
to women as
Oh,
furniture.
I get it. I remember now. Now I see the thing. Yeah, that was true. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be true too. We're going to make that prophecy come true. He digresses.
I hope not. You know, for all of the ups and downs that I've had with the fairer sex, I would not want to see that.
Comments down below. Would you like your significant other to act like a blender, a couch, or a TV where you can turn
I
it
think
off and turn it on when you
that
want?
animosity and dynamics within individual relationships may come into play if people are commenting in that regards. They're gonna have their personal grudges because I'm sure that if you have enough animosity built up in you towards your significant other, then yeah, you would not mind seeing them as a microwave or a blender.
You know who you wouldn't have animosity with though? Your couch. Fuck your couch, nigga. Fuck your couch. Soylent Green.
So that's something to check out, and that's what we're going to put in the links also. Soylent Green. I'm not going to give away the twist, but it talks about where the future of food supply would be in a society that has overextended its resources and poisoned its environment to the point where we cannot procure food from natural processes. When science takes over and becomes our primary provider of food, Think about this. We're not hunting and gathering. What is hunting and gathering nowadays? Hunting and gathering is gathering a shopping list and going to the supermarket and gathering and hunting in the aisles for your products and gathering them into the
hunting for deals
and gathering them into a shopping cart and then taking them and bundling them in your trunk or uh, putting them into your shopping cart and getting on a train. That's hunting and gathering.
You know what's my realistic reality modern take on Soylent Green right now?
What is it?
That we as consumers, especially in the area of food, we are paying real money for fake shit.
No, we're paying fake money for fake shit because money's not real.
It rhymes better when you say paying.
But let's be we're gonna talk about it as far as what sounds good or what is really real. Is it really real?
Tell me, is it real, son? Tell me if it is.
Money is backed by nothing. The only thing it's backed by is our
complete fiat.
Our faith in it.
You know why they call it fiat?
Money is backed by nothing. And matter of fact, since 1914, and you can't quote me on this, this is an approximation. It said the dollar has lost like 90% of its value since 1914. And that was accelerated when we went off the gold and silver standards.
You know how I contemplate that? Anytime I watch YouTube or any sort of stream and they do the whole inflation, like when they talk about, yeah, she won $580. Adjusted for inflation, that is 60. Yeah. It's like you're trying to tell me that $300 could have bought a house back then, and now $300 can't even pay rent for a room. That's what you call inflation, right?
But that means that's why there's a difference between the legal tender and real estate. It's something tangible that you can put your hands on. Things like precious metals and art and land. Those are real hard assets. And those are things that appreciate in value relative to the dollar and inflation. That's why they call them something like safe haven strongholds or something like that against inflation. And that's why gold is currently and silver and copper and all those other metals are on the rise as far as their value is concerned, because as the dollar loses its spending power, people put their wealth into shelters such as precious metals.
I mean, you was talking about hunting and gathering, like when this
we're living in Celestine prophecy.
When this land was aboriginal, we lived by the 4 F's: fishing, farming, fucking, and having fun. I don't know who came off of one boat and said, you know what? This society would be much better if we got this thing called a job.
There is actually a quote from an Indian, a Native American person who says something like that, before the colonizers came, we hunted all day and screwed all night. How could you improve upon that system?
I'm like, which one of the elders, which one of the chiefs, who was it that said, you know what, this thing that you're talking about, this Bible and this job thing, this sounds like a good idea. Who signed off on that shit?
You see, that's where the divide and conquer and divide and rule came into play.
But no, I mean, which tribe said it was a good idea?
But that's the whole point. When the government came to negotiate with the tribes, like for instance, we went by clans and bands, and it was based on family structure. So you might be the, for lack of a better word, chieftain of a particular clan or band, but you don't speak for the whole people. But the government will come and say, okay, you're the chief, we make a deal for you. But then they make a deal for you when they sign it, but the whole society of people did not agree. They made a deal with you and called you the paramount chief, but the people didn't make you the paramount chief. And so therefore, that's where a lot of the conflicts came into play, because the government said, well, we have a treaty with your people. We're like, nah, but Silver Feather signed that, but we run with Red Tail.
Okay, let's translate that from bands and tribes to like clans and gangs. Like, tell me how somebody can come to rookie over here, rookie GD says like, okay, we gonna hook you up with Sosa, and then it's like the deal goes down. It's like the rest of the gang ain't gonna fucking string his ass up. Like, why did it not happen? Like, okay, yeah, you made it
because
like now we're gonna punish you.
When the powers authorities made a deal with a certain element, they gave them the weapons and ammunition and gave them a strategic
they gave them
advantage
the juice
over the other tribes. And not only that, they would co-opt certain members of other tribes, like this whole concept of Indian scouts. That's when they would exploit rivalries that existed between tribes and get one tribe to use them as leverage based on past feuds and histories of animosity, and they would leverage that. And the thing about it was, after they used one tribe to decimate another, they turned around and locked up the Indian scouts too, and sent them to reservations too. Thank you for your service. Now you get into jail with the rest of the people.
So nobody ain't snitching. Somebody had to escape some point. Somebody had to escape somewhere, and somebody had to say, you know what, don't fall for this. Somebody had to start giving up the game. Nobody started giving up the game.
The whole thing about it is that there was not a lot of united action, and a lot of times people did not listen until it was too late. Like, for instance, there was, I would say, 2 Tecumsehs within history of the Native American Indian people, the Indian people. And the first Tecumseh was the one who had the prophecy that we need to band together and resist the expansion of Europeans against our land. And certain people were with the shits, some of them weren't, and his prophecy didn't come to pass. They didn't band together to repulse the westward expansion of the settlers, the colonists, the Europeans. And then a second Tecumseh came.
No relation.
No
relation.
That Tecumseh was William Tecumseh Sherman. And William Tecumseh Sherman was the one who
checking Jay-Z.
He had that total war concept. Remember Sherman's march during the Civil War, where it was total war. He destroyed everything in the path. Now, he had a protege named General Sheridan. I think it was Sheridan, yes. And that person took Tecumseh Sherman's tactics and applied it to the Native Americans, the Indians, where they adopted the policy of destroying the buffalo, the food supply, the source of independence. As long as the Plains Indians had the buffalo, they did not have to rely on the government. So you take away the source of their independence and they become dependent. And that was a strategy devised by the second Tecumseh, William Tecumseh Sherman. So if they had listened to the first one, they wouldn't have been victimized.
They wouldn't have fallen for the second one.
They wouldn't have fell victim to the second one. So I wonder what the third Tecumseh is going to do.
Nothing to do with prophecy, but we definitely need to add this to the book list.
You got to learn from history.
Blood Meridian. Be sure to pick that up and read that as well if you get a chance.
And I wonder, just a little tape just to test our theory. Let me put that in here and see what comes up.
What, the Tecumseh theory?
No, Blood Meridian.
Oh, Blood Meridian.
Oh, okay, it comes up.
Oh, you never read that?
No.
Oh, that is.
But it's not really telling me much about it. It just says
it's about the same thing.
It's an epic historical novel by the American author Cormac McCarthy.
It's about the buffalo.
Classified under Western and sometimes the anti-Western genre. And that's it. That's all we're getting. We're not really getting any. Okay.
But see, that goes back to what we was talking about early in the episode, where they're soft scrubbing stuff. Back in 1990, if you looked that up, you would have probably gotten the full description of what the story is about. But now you got to jump into the wiki.
You have to go deeper.
Yeah. Because they want to not censor, but make.
Is this talking about the truth of what happened with scalping?
No, it's more about the buffalo, the elimination of the buffalo, that whole strategy thing that you was talking about. That's what basically that book is about.
And contrary to what is known, I don't know if y'all know it or not, it was the colonizers and the settlers who started the practice of scalping, not the Indians, although they started doing it too. The reason why scalping was made is because there were bounties put on to accelerate. They commercialized the genocide of Native Americans, of Indians. But in order to prove and collect your bounty, for instance, they might say, well, we want $50 for every dead Indian, and $25 for children, and $35 for women, $50 for brave or whatever. But how do you prove that you've killed a certain amount of Indians? They started collecting scalps. So it was easier to transport to collect the bounties for killing Indians.
Spoiler alert, because I'm king spoiler here. There's a part in Blood Meridian where there's like the same thing about the scalps, and they to cheat they went and they got like Mexican scalps, and it's like nobody's gonna be able to tell the difference. Like yeah, so spoiler alert.
So that tradition of scalping did not change. If you look at Hollywood movies, it's like, and even cartoons, it was like the cartoons, Indians come scalping. It was even an episode of Tom and Jerry where the little mice Indians were scalping, was scalping Jerry, was scalping Tom.
I wonder if you can find that episode today.
Can you find
probably soft scrub?
Let's see.
I mean, you'll probably find it on YouTube, but as far as Hanna-Barbera's official channel, I'm pretty sure it's like missing episode, lost media. All right, but going back to the topic of the fundamental force, right? Okay, we're coexisting now. We're trading. We're bartering. At what point? When was it?
They have it as listed as one of the darkest episodes of Tom and Jerry.
That one is. You're sure it's not one of the ones with the black?
It's called Two Little Indians. That one.
One of the darkest episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is when they gonna come and try to scalp Tom.
Right? They did.
Yeah,
to my memory.
Yeah, but the thing about it was, even in cartoons, they were perpetuating this particular myth when it was the colonizers who did it as a way of them claiming, commercializing murder.
It's the same thing that's going to happen with the Blanco genocide.
But the Blanco genocide is fake news, being perpetuated by the people who coined the phrase fake news. So if they know about fake news, who's to say that they wouldn't perpetuate it?
As long as somebody doesn't go out with the idea of trying to turn that prophecy true.
It wouldn't happen, because you have to realize that the security apparatus that exists among these power structures, you have to understand that these institutions, through pillage and leverage and marginalization, have acquired a lot of control of the capital and resources. And with capital and resources, you can afford to secure yourselves with private militias, with soldiers of fortune, with mercenaries, with elite special forces, military people. So how is the average person on the street with their little pea shooter going to be able to infiltrate your establishment when you got a security team of 3 ex-Navy SEALs, 2 ex-Green Berets, and 2 special armed services from Britain?
I think it's the old school, old-fashioned way, man. It's like you know when they say in a kung fu fight, yo, all of that muscles can't stop a bullet. Yeah, all of that training, and you can't stop a bullet either.
And you know what's funny? I was looking up, and people talking about, oh yeah, we can revolt. It's just a return. No, the only revolution that'll be successful is not a one that is based on weapons and warfare. It's one that's based on cultural awareness and changing your vibration. That's the only revolution that will work, in my opinion.
Or
the revolution of the mind.
Or controlling your spending dollar. Yeah, start being stingy with that and not put it willy-nilly.
Yeah, but the dollar also, the dollar itself is a sandcastle.
Yes, my question. Okay, at what point did we go from bartering to like, okay, I'm going to give you this shiny coin and then you're going to give me their skin? Like when did we get to the greenback?
Well, like the Knights Templar.
Like who said like? Oh,
well, we have to look at the evolution of commerce, right? The fact that the whole promissory notes, like for instance, you have a certain value of gold, but gold is heavy. So imagine carrying $1 million in gold. That's pretty heavy. So what you would do was you would go to a Knights Templar fort, and I would leave my 100 pounds of gold with you here, and you'd give me a note. And then I would travel to another Knights Templar fort at my destination, 1,000 miles away. And there, where they had another 100 pounds of gold, they would honor my note. And that's how the banking system had its roots.
Yeah, but how did somebody come over here with a note and says, I'm going to give you this and you're going to work for me for it? Like, give me your time and I'll give you this greenback. Like, how did we get there?
Well, that's a whole big conversation, and there's a whole library of information on how the capitalist society went and put us from slave labor into wage labor, or becoming wage slaves.
Because this is how I see the transition. We went from fishing, farming, fucking, and fun to bartering, and it's like after bartering, I don't see where all that trickery and fiat
And
comes
that
in.
came in a place where when we started getting land rights and private property and all that other stuff. That's how, and then certain people starting to accumulate more resources than what they could possibly sustain themselves for and have an overabundance. That's when these mechanisms started to come in play, when you had large stores of unneeded wealth.
Because back in the bar,
We seem to still be we still be in the cyberspace realms, but I think that we pretty much have a good pilot for now. No? So let's basically recap, and we're gonna shut it down and come back and see how things have manifested for this particular pilot run. And I would like a lot of criticism to come, and constructive criticism to come into the comments as far as what we are seeking to put together here with Codename Codebreakers. But again, to recap, the particular, I guess, suggested or required reading for this particular setting, and also required viewing, was The Celestine Prophecy, George Orwell's 1984, Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, Fahrenheit 451.
you remember the author? Something Scott.
Was that Ray Bradbury? No, it wasn't Ray Bradbury. But we can find it out. But the other thing was the movie that you were talking about.
Soylent Green.
Yes, it was Ray Bradbury. I was correct. Good, my mind was on point. Ray Bradbury for Fahrenheit 451. The movie Soylent Green. I think was that Charlton Heston?
I think it had a book too, didn't it? Wasn't it a book first?
I'm not sure. But I think, was that Charlton Heston who started? It was a 1970.
I think it was Charlton Heston. Yeah.
Yes, it was Charlton Heston. Soylent Green starring Charlton. We're recalling this pretty good.
No, so, I mean, because it was one of my favorites, but that's why I think.
But it's funny that you were just talking about that, and that I was just recently talking about that. And then there was the other book that you had just recently mentioned,
Blood Meridian.
Blood Meridian, and who was the author of Blood Meridian?
Oh, I definitely can't help you with that.
Well, I'll bring that up.
That was one. That was one I didn't read, folks. I audiobooked that one.
And that's by Cormac McCarthy.
How old is it? It was published.
It was published in 1985. 1985. 1 year after George Orwell's Prophecy. And we're going to put all of the links to those particular merchandise books that we should examine and get the physical copies.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the Kobo Book Club Discord.
Tactile is tactical. You want to feel it. Tactile is tactical.
And you don't want to get your soft scrubbed information, because once you have it in the book, they can't erase it, copy, and repeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We also talked about the changes that have happened in the work of Mark Twain and Laura Ingalls Wilder, and how they're seeking to whitewash it for our own benefit, because they don't want us to be traumatized by or offended by the things that we read. So basically, they're changing the way history is, because these particular books they were written during the same time, contemporary to these particular events. So we're getting basically firsthand accounts, but they want to go back and revise it with our so-called politically correct
PC
lens of viewing things and going and making revisions. So it's a revisionist type of history thing that's happening, which they claim is for our own good. So we need to preserve the originals, because if not, as you were mentioning, if we project this another 5 generations, people will think that it was kumbaya and peaches and cream and candy canes and cotton candy and lollipops when it wasn't.
And I just can't wait to be king.
You know what somebody pointed out, and I think it was one of those screen rant things when they like the elevator pitch, the pitch meeting series. He pointed out the irony of him basically singing about his father's death, because he can't just wait to be king. In order for you to be king, your dad has to die.
The dark side of Disney.
Yeah, the dark side of Disney. Like you're singing, I just can't wait to be king, but that means Mufasa gotta die. And so you're singing, I just can't wait for my dad to die. But you don't think of it that way. Him singing, I just can't wait to be king. He's singing, I just can't wait for Mufasa to die.
Hey, I'm not
and his wish was fulfilled, thanks to Scar and the wildebeest.
I'm not gonna say soft scrub, but I'm gonna predict
Whitewash.
This is my prophecy.
Bleach.
In the next 2 years, we won't be able to say whitewash or blackmail. Mark my words.
That's racially divisive. Until next time, this has been Codename Codebreakers. I'm the DX21.
And this is the E to the L to the O to the A. Fly, Robin, fly.
Lord Omni, Allah, the Loa. All right, so DX21presents.com is where you'll be able to get the merch. We got some fly designs. If you have thought that conscious clothing was corny, wait till you see what we have in store.
If you miss cross colors branding, you know what it is.
Peace.
Hair grease.
All right, so I don't know how to end this.
Stop. Just stop. Where's the stop button?
I have no idea.
You gotta scroll up, down. Wait, we was live? Somebody hit a like.
Yeah, but I don't know how to stop it.
Scroll down. Oh, I mean, just hit the like button. Oh, it's not clicking?
Nope.
Bingo.
That's saying leave site. It's a good thing that
on the end stream.
We finally found it, and I guess we'll be able to edit this out at some point.